what happens? The trial goes to the jury, and the jury deliberates for a month. They cannot come to a consensus. Okay. And this was one of the most interesting parts of the documentary for me, because this was a fact that I didn't know. And I feel like nobody's really talked about in the media at all. And that's the fact that, actually, you know what? I'm going to let the juror from the documentary speak on it and speak for herself. Okay. This is what the juror two of the jurors actually are in this clip, who was in the first trial. This is what she had to say.
My worst fear came to pass when we made the mistake of taking a show of hands. All of the men raised their hands in favor of first-degree murder, and none of the women raised their hands. So I knew that we had a battle on our hands, a battle of the sexes.
The men instantly voted for murder.
I think the men had a really hard time accepting the fact that a young man could possibly be abused by his father. And the women were more empathetic in terms of understanding issues of abuse.
It was very emotional for me to think that the child had been raised the way that Eric had been raised and handled and treated that way, and decided his only way of having a better life was to have one without a parents in it.
Those were two of the female jurors from the first Menendez trial. Did you hear what they said? They said that the vote was split by gender, that all of the men wanted to convict them of first-degree murder, and all of the women wanted to convict them of manslaughter. You find that out later in the documentary. I mean, when they say that the patriarchy hurts men too, if this isn't a prime example, honey. Did you hear what she said? She said that she felt like a lot of the men could not understand, they could not fathom, could not believe that a boy could be abused sexually. I talked about this on my TikTok, and someone in my comments said, also, a lot of men will think that it is the boy's fault, that the boy was weak. That's that patriarchy, baby. That's that patriarchal programming, honey. And who could empathize with the boys who had been abused? The women. The women. The vote on both of the juries, because it was both of them were being tried separately, although they were in the same. I didn't understand that, but there was two separate juries, two separate attorneys. Both juries were split amongst gender lines. Ain't that some shit? It begs the question, if the jury was all women, or if the juries were mostly women, would the boys have gotten what ended up happening? Which, by the way, this trial ended in a mistrial, because they could not, after 1 month of deliberation, they could not come to a consensus. The patriarchy hurts men too, because the patriarchy creates these beliefs that little boys can't be sexually abused. The patriarchy creates these beliefs that little boys are weak if it happens to them. It makes people in general, but especially men, believe these. When I heard that, I was like, God damn, the patriarchy strikes again. And I think it's so interesting that I don't remember ever hearing about this fact anywhere, even in the resurgence of interest in this case today. Nobody's talking about that fact. Also, I'm sure another factor was some of those men on the jury could empathize and identify with an abuser. I wonder why. And they're thinking, well, we can't just go around killing abusers all willy-nilly, can we?